the struggle that a lot of fans have. The best place to be is to have a lot of money or to have no money. The ones in the middle are the ones that you really go through the big chess games. And I'll explain why. When you got a lot of money, right? Money's like speed. It covers up a lot of mistakes. So you can make a mistake on a player, then go sign somebody else and pay them $25 million a year and cover that up because you have money to spend. When you don't have money, you don't have any decisions. You just have to trade the player. But when you trade the player, you're hopefully trading them in a time where you're getting 3 good players back. It used to be more than that, but now in terms of young players, maybe you can only get 2, maybe 1 really good one if you're lucky, because they're so valuable now and inexpensive relative to the market. So what you do, but you don't have a decision. You can't keep him. He's going to cost you too much. You don't have any money. So you're constantly turning over your players, and it forces you never get in mistakes of extending a player out. And that's what I'm saying. You never take your player and give him a 10-year contract after that because he's going to be a free agent, or an 8-year contract, and overspend on him. And then he turns out not to be worth it because he gets hurt and whatever. You never get into those situations. You're always dealing with younger players, which you have to have good ones to win, but at the same time, you don't have the finances to back up a bad decision, so you never make them. At the same time, the clubs in the middle have the issue because now you have a good player. You don't have a lot of money. You're not a big market club, but you got enough to tie up 1, 2, maybe even 3 of your own players. But guess what? After you do that, you don't have any money to go out and get the big free agent. So you can't deal in the free agent market as well. So you end up getting more middle of the road type or really cheap major league players to supplement your club. And then if your young guys don't play well, and then something happens there, you're really in a tight box. Because if you don't tie up one of your existing players that the fans love, then your whole fan base gets mad at you. So you don't want that. So you end up tying them up, and then, but you can only afford to maybe do 2 or 3 of them. And then it's a tough, that's what I'm saying. It's a tough scenario when you're in the middle. And that's where, if you took the middle 10 teams, those are the ones that, and probably a little bit more than that, because every club can afford to keep probably 2 at least and tie them up to big contracts. But it's a very, very difficult exercise to put that together.
Yeah, I mean, it seems extremely difficult. But you said you'd rather have a lot of money or no money. So how is a team like the Rays? I mean, I know most of their guys are from draft picks. They're going to lose a lot of their guys in the future, right? So they only have this short window. How do they go about kind of handling that?
Well, hopefully you're bringing up players from the minor league system that are ready to compete. But there's also, I'll tell you what helps your development. When you're in the minor leagues with the Rays, you're with one of the best clubs to be with, because if I play well, I'm going to the big leagues. It's not like some other club where you go, what if I'm in AAA playing well, but I'm playing behind, whoever, Jeter or whatever with the old Yankees. It's like, where are you going to go? You're not going anywhere if you're a shortstop. You're not taking his job. And that's what I mean. So when you're with that type of club, that whole environment turns into one of really players feeling like there's light at the end of the tunnel. And then you end up developing more players because of that positive outlook that they have. That I know if I just play well through the minor leagues, I'm going to the big leagues and I'll get an opportunity. So hopefully when they do get there, they're ready to play and compete. And hopefully, since you're not making a lot of trades, sending young players out, these guys, the young players, have all played together at one time or another. So they're very close knit, they're tied in together, and they're used to playing for one another. And that really helps as well. The issue I'd say is that once you get, you control a player for 6 years at the big league level. So if you're trading away really good players, like they've made trades and they get more young players back, then you're in a great scenario to, for your own players, and then the young players that you got in trades. If you're picking the right ones from other clubs, then you always have a good base of players. That's what I'm saying. It's a good spot to be in. No money or a lot of money. You just don't want to be in the middle. I mean, and if you are in the middle, it's really where it's most fun, being in the middle, if you're a front office guy, because you got stuff going on all the time, trying to figure it out. With big market clubs, I guess it's fun there too, because every player is available to you. It doesn't matter how much they make, you might be able to get them. When you're in the middle, you're going, well, we can't get that. Oh, we can't get that guy. We can't sign him. Costs too much. And when you're down below, or you don't have a lot of money, now you're in position to really scout those other organizations and know who the good players are. That's fun too. Figuring out, okay, if we make a trade with whoever, who do we want from them that's an A-ball? Right? We're getting young ones because they're further away from the big leagues, and we're going to be able to get some good impact players if we deal in that market.
Yeah, it's incredibly interesting stuff. I never really thought about it that way. I always just kind of thought, the big dogs at the top kind of and then everyone else kind of got the scraps. But it's interesting to hear you say the little guy has the poor teams have a kind of an advantage there. Moving on a little bit, I understand that you have a book out called "Do You Want to Work in Baseball?" Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what that's about?
Yeah, of course I want to talk about my book. Come on, Trevor. Hey, Do You Want to Work in Baseball? And you can find that on Amazon or on my website, InsideBaseballOperations.com. It's InsideBaseballOperations.com, fully spelled out. And I go through a lot of how young people should put together their presentation, I'll call it, in terms of their resume and cover letter and the experiences they should try to have. Put all that together and basically try to explain who gets hired from all the masses of people trying to get into professional baseball and really professional sports. And then from there, I go through, as it pertains to professional baseball, I go through scouting and player development. Basically, the way I was taught to scout and do player evaluation with the Yankees a while back. It's more of in this world where there's a lot of quantitative type of analysis on baseball and statistics. This is more of a qualitative analysis. So what I wanted to do is document how people actually do scouting with their eyes and the types of things that you pay attention to in player development when you're trying to develop, say, an 18-year-old kid out of high school all the way to the big league level. And so I go through I basically take the reader through how I was trained to scout with the Yankees. And that's when Jeter was an A-ball. When I left the Yankees, Jeter was an A-ball and Bernie Williams was in AAA and up to the big leagues a little bit. Pettit, Posada, Mariano Rivera were all at Albany Colony in AA. And, but that system of how I learned how to scout is basically what Bill Livesey, our boss, put together to get all those players that ended up winning all those championships. So, I take the reader exactly how I was taught. In fact, one of the stories, I try to have stories in there to explain what I'm talking about. And one of the stories in there involved Aaron Boone, who was a freshman at USC when I went out to Pepperdine and I was scouting in Southern California. And Boone's big shot manager now, the Yankees. But when I was scouting for the Yankees, way back when he was an 18-year-old kid, I was watching him. And I tell the story about that day. One of my first days scouting with my boss, and he was explaining to me how we do this. And, Boone was out there playing for SC that day. So a lot of stories like that with me and Lasorda at the winter meetings, or Clint Hurdle and the time we spent working together, and or FP Santangelo's the color guy on the broadcast for the Nationals. Went through about when we called him up to the big leagues, and all kinds of stories intertwined with what I'm trying to convey to the reader and being a mentor for them in scouting and player development.
So what I'm hearing too is not just if you're just looking for a job in baseball, if you're just someone that wants to hear some fun baseball stories, this is a book for them too.
Exactly. That's what I tried to do. I tried to make it a little bit of a textbook if you're interested in that type of thing. But I think the normal fan would like to understand how people scouted and how they go about scouting, not in terms of an analytics type of view, but a basic, which everybody can do, because not a lot of people are mathematicians, right? This way you can watch a ball game and know how we did it, and then try to go out and do it yourself and figure out if you would draft this player or not draft that player, or think they can play in the big leagues or what have you. So it's to me, it's how I learned. It's how they taught us. And I think a lot of people nowadays in this world of analytics, which I'm kind of in the middle. I think there's the quantitative is outstanding. And at times I can be accused of being too quantitative. And then maybe with some of the guys that are really the statistical analysis guys, they might think I'm a little too qualitative, but so I can be accused on either end. But at the same time, I think it's great for I'd say people that don't have professional baseball experience as a player or as a scout or whatever, to really understand that besides the statistical analysis, there is a process to how old school, I'll call them, baseball guys did things. And that's not well documented. And that's why I tried to write the book, to make sure that stuff all got put in.
Yeah, well, it's incredibly, just hearing you talk about it now, it's incredibly interesting. I know as a baseball fan, I want to know that stuff. I want to know how to scout. I also want to hear those stories. I know a lot of baseball, probably 99% of baseball fans want to know this stuff. Sometimes they just don't know where to get it, but now you know. Do you want to work in baseball?
Yeah, do you want to work in baseball? And it's the only, to me, and the reason why I wanted to write it, because I was tired of answering emails and phone calls from people that wanted to work in baseball. And how do you do it? I said, I used to say when I was working, one of these days I'm just going to write a book, and I'm going to put that down. And that way everybody can just say, hey, get my book and read that. And then that'll tell you everything you need to know. But at the same time, I think just putting it down and really documenting it, because it was, to me, there was no book that really taught you how to scout. It was all, at least how we learned how to scout. It was all just, stories about scouting a player in high school or some famous player or whatever. Not a real, I'd say, focus in on, hey, this book is teaching you how we learned how to scout when I first started. And I mean, the people that read it love it, whether they're in the industry or not. I mean, Clint Hurdle told me that everybody in baseball should be reading it, not just people trying to get a job. So no, it's been well received by baseball people, and that's what I like.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what you want to hear. Once again, do you want to work in baseball? You can get that on Amazon or Bill's website, whichever is easier for you. Definitely check this book out. It sounds like a great read. Now, moving on a little bit from the book, Bill, I want to talk about, playoffs starting. Today is actually day one. There's a game going on as we talk. I want to get your opinion on some of the playoffs. I don't know how closely you're following it. I'm sure you know about the Giants and Dodgers 107, 106, game winning seasons. I want to kind of get your thoughts on that.